Tanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So I stopped a little before the end of the purport because of what Srila Prabhupada says, that I wanted to just emphasize this particular point here. The Lord, by his glance, injects all the living entities into the womb of material nature, and they come out in their different forms and species according to their last desires and activity. So, what does that mean? That means that Krishna is in perfect and complete control, and there's no other factor. The other factors, as Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, Krishna is the background, meaning everything's coming from Krishna. That coming from Krishna in the sense that Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate, everything material and spiritual is coming from Krishna. So coming from Krishna means that swabhaviki jnana bala kriyacha. It means that it's happening automatically. Krishna has to make no effort. His energies, as Srila Prabhupada explains very nicely here in the verse, that it's the energy. So, but Krishna has parasya shaktir vividaiva shuyate, unlimited energies, and all of those unlimited energies are conducting everything. And Krishna, natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, Krishna has nothing to do. And he only does something in this material world, as he also says in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, because he wants to give the example. Of course, we can't follow all of his examples, but we can follow his example of being responsible. Krishna says, I accept some work within this material world to be responsible. No, I have to be responsible. Otherwise, if I'm not responsible, then people will follow my irresponsible example. Just like the tendency nowadays in society is, this is okay by society's standards, therefore I'll do it. This is okay. I saw this on the internet, must be true. So we accept so many different authorities, internet, especially the internet, and of course Facebook. Everything must be true in Facebook. So these are the illusions that the living entities are living under. So Krishna here, he says, not only am I in control, but I'm so much in control that the living entities will have everything according to their last desires. How do you say it? Desires and activity. So this brings up a very famous verse in 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. Tatenu kampam susamikshamana punjana evapmikritam vipakam. That a devotee of the Lord is never bothered by these things, because a devotee of the Lord immediately is protected by the Lord's energy. It says that when a devotee in the fifth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it says that the living entity, when he's in the service of Krishna, then he doesn't have anything to do with the modes of nature, but he sees everything happening by the modes of nature. So this is a devotee's position. A devotee sees that Krishna is in perfect control of everything. And therefore, like sometimes people wonder, why doesn't Krishna give his devotees special powers so that they don't have to suffer in the material world. But suffering is an automatic condition of a material body. Once you have a material body, you have to suffer. So, but the consciousness, therefore, Krishna many times in Bhagavad Gita says of one who has a purified mind, or one whose mind is focused on Krishna. When the mind is focused on Krishna, we don't feel the suffering because we don't identify with the body. But in any case, let's go back a little bit to what I wanted to. So therefore, a devotee says, Tattenu kampam anukampam. He understands that all compassion and everything is the Lord's compassion. It's all following, it's all coming from the Lord. Susamikshamana. Therefore, a devotee is very, very, very patient, and they wait for whatever the Lord has in store of them. They wait for it, understanding eva atmakritam. Atmakritam, we are causing it to happen. It's not happening by chance. We should never wonder, why is Krishna allowing this? Why is this happening? What we should try to do is gain sufficient knowledge from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita to be able to see the three modes of nature acting. I've many times given the example, many of you may have heard it, that if someone goes to the beach, almost everybody likes to go to the beach. So you go to the beach, and if you go to the beach in the mode of goodness, you sit down, you see the beauty of nature, the extension of the sky and the horizon of the ocean extended beyond our sight or beyond our vision, the sky going beyond our vision. We know that it goes beyond that. And therefore, a person in the mode of goodness contemplates the greatness and how much more great, if there is greatness within this small planet, in this small universe, in this material creation, which is smaller than the spiritual creation. If there's so much greatness, how great is Krishna? So a devotee, wherever he goes, he sees some aspect of Krishna partially manifested in this material world and thinks, yeah, that's nice. It's coming from Krishna. But however great, nice, beautiful, powerful it is that I observe, how much greater is Krishna. And therefore, a devotee is always satisfied in devotion service. A person in the mode of passion will come to that beach and they'll look around and think, oh, how much I could build a highway here. I could put some condominiums over there. I could do this over here and make a lot of money. And a person in the mode of ignorance will come to the same place and with a big several six-packs of beer and music, and without thinking about anybody else, throw the beer cans and the potato chip bags on the ground and go away. So the same place, but the effect is very different. And this is how the three modes work. And of course, this is a very simple example. The three modes are combining in different proportions and causing so many things to happen in our lives, but we can't see them. Just like so many radio waves, electromagnetic waves from our cell phones, from the internet, our computer, our modem, so many electronic waves are passing through it. We don't see them. We don't even feel them, but we can perceive them through the instrument. And in the same way, we can perceive the modes of nature through the instrument of Krishna's knowledge. So let me go ahead and finish the purport. I just wanted to emphasize that point, that nothing is happening to us without being part of our desires, past desires and activities. All the living entities, although born under the glance of the Supreme Lord, take their different bodies according to their past deeds and desires. So the Lord is not directly attached to this material creation. He simply glances over material nature. Material nature is thus activated, and everything is created immediately. Because he glances over material nature, there is undoubtedly activity on the part of the Supreme Lord, but he has nothing to do with the manifestation of the material world directly. This example is given in the Smriti. When there is a fragrant flower before someone, the fragrance is touched by the smelling power of the person. Yet the smelling and the flower are detached from one another. There is a similar connection between the material world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, he has nothing to do with this material world, but he creates by his glance and ordains. In summary, material nature, without the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot do anything. Yet the Supreme Personality is detached from all material activity. So this is very different from our experience. Otherwise, we can't, if we don't directly do something, it doesn't happen. And if we don't do anything, everything happens whether we're involved or not. But in Krishna's case, if he's not involved, then nothing happens. So going back to the subject matter, conspiracy theory, if we look at the word conspire, conspiracy, conspire comes from Latin, con, which means together. And of course, those who speak Spanish know con means together. And spirare is a Latin word that means to breathe. Just like in Spanish, respirar, or we have the Latin derivative in English, respiratory, means to breathing. So conspire means to breathe together, literally. Otherwise, it means that to establish our essential activity, we come together. So actually, this world is a field of unlimited conspiracies: family conspiracy, child conspiracy, children play together, educational conspiracy. Every country has educational people come together and they decide how people should be indoctrinated, how people should be disciplined. And then as you go higher in the hierarchy of human dominance or human management, then you get the more consolidation of power people have. I'm a mayor, I'm a governor, I'm a president, I'm a king, I'm an emperor. So the higher you go in that power structure, generally you have more influence. But that having so much influence, which is of course why some conspiracists pick Bill Gates, so he's got $100 billion. So, and certainly he does use that money, or he or anyone. I'm not focusing on anyone here. They have their money and they have power. I remember maybe a year ago or maybe a year and a half ago, I was driving in a car and I saw another car in front of us had a big cross for Christianity and the fish and everything. And it said, "My Lord, please give me money and power." And so this is what everybody's after in this world. Dana Jana Sundari. Dana, wealth. Jana, power, meaning influence or recognition that I am who I am and I have these qualities and I have the ability to control others. And Sundari, the object of enjoyment. But Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Karya Karanam Kartitve, Hetu Prakriti Uchate, that all of this as we just read, all of this is under the control of the three modes of material nature. Nothing is happening without the three modes of material nature. But so what is our involvement? So Krishna says, Purusha sukha dukhanam bhoktitve hetir uchate. That the living entity, bhoktitve, the living entity is trying to enjoy this material world, and therefore, by that act of trying to independently manipulate nature, which belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the living entity is bewildered, diluted by the three modes of nature. You know, that was spoken by Krishna, that in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna, he brings up the question that Krishna, attakena pramuktoyam, that how is it, Krishna, that prayukta, it seems like we're very forcefully put together with papam, he says, sinful or undesirable activities. And so Arjuna says, this is like balad iva. This is like something that's certainly very powerful, that just overcomes us, niyojitaha, that just forces us into a situation. What is that? What is the cause, Krishna? Please tell me. And Krishna says, kama esha, krodha esha, rajaguna samudbhavaha. This is all enacted by the modes of material nature, impelled by the mode of passion, which causes desires, and when those desires are frustrated, anger. Mahashano mahapratma. Understand, this is the devours all of our qualities and devours the very goodness of this world, and mahapratma. And this is the most sinful. Now, Arjuna, so Krishna is saying basically that anytime you have material desires that take us away from your devotional service, in one sense, in a subtle sense, this is sinful. Because for a devotee, and from a pure devotee's point of view, that everything that's independent of the Lord's desire for a pure devotee, it's sinful. Now, for an ordinary person like us, or like some of us, it may be not so sinful because I have material desires, I want to do this. So therefore, sinful is categorized by the acharyas and by the shastras as that which goes against the laws of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which for a pure devotee means anything outside the scope of pure devotional service. But for an ordinary person, or for someone who joins our ISKCON movement, means when you don't follow the four regulative principles, when you don't chant the Maha Mantra, then you will be influenced by sinful activity. So, but the point is that Krishna's answer was that all this is brought upon ourselves when we allow the modes of nature to control us. Now, many times I've also given the example that how can you escape the modes of nature? By being very Krishna conscious. But your body and even your mind and even your intelligence will not be able to escape feeling the influence. Just like a person in a boat. If you're in a boat on the ocean, you feel the waves, you feel the influence of the waves, but you don't get wet. Of course, unless you're in a storm on the deck, but you're in the boat, you feel the effects, but you're not overcome by them. So in the same way, as long as we have a material body, we'll feel the influence of the modes of nature. We'll feel the influence, just like we get tired, the influence of the mode of ignorance, or we become too involved in a particular activity due to some type of attachment, mode of passion. Or we feel good about knowing something, mode of goodness. And these things you can't avoid. but you can avoid that they control you. You can avoid that they influence you to the point of, of being controlled by them. So, just like I gave the example, an expert captain knows how to navigate the waves in such a way that their influence is that he knows how to take a particular angle when crossing the waves so that there's a minimal effect. And also, a devotee knows how to live a lifestyle, basically in the mode of goodness, which eliminates the influence of the three modes of material nature. So therefore, yes, there are conspiracies, and now let's talk about not the maximum definition of a conspiracy, meaning any group of people getting together with some particular idea, but the big conspiracies that everybody feels that are being imposed upon us by godless people. Yes, that's happening all the time. No, just like when Krishna and Balaram were going to the forest, and they were playing with their cowherd boys, and then Krishna said, "Let's play a game, the game of hide and seek." And of course, they have I can't remember the name, but there's a particular name given by our acharyas. And he said, and when you find somebody, whoever finds the other person from the other group, because there were two groups, Balaram's group, Krishna's group, then you have to carry that person on your shoulders. Otherwise, you find them, then whoever you find, they have to carry you on your shoulders. And just at that time, there was one cowherd boy that had to stay behind. And the demon, the demon Pralamba, he understood that. No. Just like sometimes I've seen devotees become disturbed. Oh, they're watching us through satellites and through internet manipulation. They can see what you're saying. They can see what you're doing, the government or whoever may be this ominous force that's observing us. Yes, the demons were observing Krishna. They knew. How did Pralamba know that particular day, this cowherd boy, no, he was just like a burglar or a thief. If they want to rob your house, first they'll drive up and for a few days, generally speaking, they'll drive around and they'll see what time you get up, what time you go to bed, when you go to work. And then they find a time when the house is empty and go and rob it. So in the same way, even the Ishupanishad says that you have to know your friends and your enemies. You have to know the positive force and the negative force. So a devotee also, to be successful, has to understand that even in Krishna's time, there were spies. Just like Srila Prabhupada, of course, many of you weren't around at this time in the US, but when Richard Nixon was the president, he got caught in a conspiracy. And that conspiracy was the Watergate tapes. Otherwise, he had people listening in on different opponents and what they were doing so that he could control things better. So when they told that to Srila Prabhupada, of course, all of us Americans or, Western people were thinking this is horrible. And Prabhupada said, what is the problem? Every king must have spies. No? And the interesting thing is that whenever otherwise in our government or any government, they all have spies to try to find out what the enemy or what another country we're concerned about, what they're doing, what their policies are. But if you don't use, everybody's spying, but because that's authorized by the government. But when you do spying that's not authorized by the government, then you get put in jail. Just like Prabhupada gave the example, if a soldier kills someone on the battlefield, he gets a medal. But if he kills someone in his hometown or in his home country, then he's put into jail. So in the same way, Krishna, the demons have their spies. Krishna doesn't need spies, although he may have had some just to follow the official protocol of the government. Krishna doesn't need spies because he knows everything. So when this demon came in, Krishna knew immediately. He knew, here's a demon. He's substituting. Balaram, of course, has that same power, but Krishna didn't. Sometimes Krishna's Yogamaya energy covers even his brother Balaram. Everybody is under Maya. Even Krishna is influenced by Yogamaya to think and act in such a way that his pastimes become sweeter. So everybody's under some Maya, and Yogamaya is under Krishna Maya. No, otherwise, Yogamaya, every force in this material world and everywhere, even in the spiritual world, is coming from Krishna. And Krishna subjects himself to that same force, but in a very positive way, so that he can intimately enjoy the sweet, loving pastimes of his devotee. So Krishna was thinking, how am I going to get rid of this demon? Because Krishna, he's so intent and so desirous that his devotees enjoy in a wonderful way. And even if there's killing of the demons, it happens in a wonderful way. So, and Krishna, ultimately, he was thinking how to kill him. He knows how to kill him, but he thinks like that because he's playing like an ordinary boy. So Balaram, he found Pralamba, and Pralamba found him, so Balaram had to carry, Balaram from Pralamba had to carry him because Pralamba wanted to be found. And so when Balaram got onto his shoulders, everybody, after they finished the hide and seek part, then they all got on the loser's shoulders, and Krishna took everyone to a big bandira tree, a big, beautiful tree. But Pralamba went the other direction, and he went far away because Pralamba was thinking, Krishna is a very powerful adversary. Let me take Balaram away and kill him first, then I'll have to deal with Krishna. So his idea was eliminate any interference first, and then I can try to capture Krishna. So after a few minutes, Balaram realized that where's everybody else? So Balaram became heavier and heavier. Balaram is Sankarshan, or the gravitational force. By that gravitational force, he became unlimitedly heavy, and Pralamba couldn't maintain. Srila Prabhupada explains that, and our acharyas explain that when that demons, especially demons, have this mystical power, but when they're in contact with the divine energy of the Lord, they cannot exhibit their mystical powers. Just like even Dhruva Maharaj, by his devotional service, he could see through the yakshas and how they were exhibiting their mystical powers, and therefore he could defeat them. What to speak of Balaram? So as soon as he began his influence of his transcendental powers, Pralamba couldn't maintain his disguise, and he became this big demon. But then apparently, Balaram became fearful. He became fearful, according to Sanatana Goswami, because, first of all, he was thinking, this is Krishna's pastime, and I have to be, although I am Krishna's brother, I have to participate in Krishna's pastime and act like a cowherd boy. So even though there's this big demon below me, I don't want to disturb the pastime by exhibiting some extraordinary strength. And then he also thought, Krishna accepted this cowherd boy. He embraced him. Maybe Krishna has some special relationship with this cowherd boy, and this is some special pastime or activity of Krishna. And then but the worst, the most difficult thing for him, he was thinking that maybe Krishna um, is in danger, because just like this demon is attacking me, maybe another demon is attacking Krishna, and therefore let me uh, make sure that that's not happening. So, um, so anyway, uh, then, uh, but then Balaram, of course, realized that I have to kill this demon, because if Krishna's in danger, I better get there quickly. And so he did. He 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 beat the demon on the head, and he died. But the point is that even Balaram is influenced by Krishna's Maya. And another time, of course, we know when Krishna arranged to expand himself as the cow herd boys and the calves, after 1 year, Balaram started seeing all kinds of things. He was seeing it again and again. But one day, he saw that the cowherd men were tending the cows, but the cows just wandered away, because the cowherd men had all sitting down with their sons on their laps, smelling their heads, weren't even thinking about the cows. And the cows were running to give milk to their calves, even though the calves were beyond their milk drinking stage. So he thought, this is unusual. I don't know what's going on. Therefore, if I don't know what's going on, then I'm being bewildered by Krishna. And then he went to Krishna, and Krishna explained everything. So the point is that if Balaram can be influenced like that, if Mahavishnu can be influenced and is so desirous of just having Krishna's darshan, Bhagavatam says, Visvas manam swasya, that even Krishna is so wonderful. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Seems like somebody told me to cut off for a minute. Okay. So Krishna is so wonderful that he can influence anybody, and everybody is, even Mahavishnu was bewildered by Krishna's beauty and wanted to see Krishna's beauty. So the point is that these three modes of nature, even the most powerful persons in the world, the greatest leaders, the greatest conspirators, and they are. Prabhupada spoke many times about different types of conspiracy and different causes of things, how big, powerful people, and we can see that they get together. But all of them are also under the modes of nature. And therefore, even though they may plan something together, the famous saying which Srila Prabhupada quoted many times, honor among thieves. Otherwise, thinking that, or another example that Prabhupada gave was, he said, the cucumber thief and the diamond thief. So there's a cucumber thief and a diamond thief. So the cucumber thief, if they get caught, the cucumber thief says, well, don't be concerned about me. The diamond thief, I'm just stealing some cucumbers. He's stealing diamonds. Therefore, he's worse than me. So in this material world, we have that tendency that although the bad conspirators are the ones that have all this power and money and position and so many things under their control, therefore they're very dangerous. But the little conspirators like me, conspiring to try to enjoy material nature unlimitedly, conspirators like me, no problem. No, I'm just trying to enjoy this material world. I just want to, enjoy this and enjoy that, but I'm also doing it like a nice devotee. So Therefore, what's the problem? I'm just a mini enjoyer. But whatever kind of enjoyer we are, and whatever we may do, we're all conspirators. Now, that doesn't mean that we should just discount the fact that there are conspirators and there are, Prabhupada spoke about them. But what was the solution? The solution was not to get into their theories and their understandings and try to figure it all out and figure out why this is happening. Just like there's ideas of different conspiracies at different times, 9/11 or this one or that one. And it all may be true. But what is the solution? To look for the solution, we should go back to Srila Prabhupada when he met his spiritual master. And when he met him, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur called him over and his friend and said, "You're educated, intelligent boys. You should take up this Krishna consciousness and spread it wherever you can." And but then Srila Prabhupada objected. Well, what about, we're a dependent country. If I start preaching in English, who will listen to me? They are all, will see us as just some dependent, foolish people governed by a greater force. Who will take us seriously? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, no one is independent from the three modes of material nature. No one is independent from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone is under their control. And then he said, and even that, the British are probably better managers than we are. Otherwise, he totally dismissed all these things that are true in people's minds. People think if somebody comes from an insignificant country, especially in the US or in Europe, or more developed, economically developed countries, they think, oh, these other insignificant small countries, they're not of any concern. We have so much power, we have so much influence. And so, but a devotee never thinks that. A devotee thinks all power, just like Prasad Maharaj. Hiranyakashipu said, how do you get this power? This power that you defy me, this power that I try to kill you and you cannot be killed. I've sent you to be killed so many different ways. What is your power? And Prahlad Maharaj said, the source of my power is the source of your power and the source of everyone's power. You're thinking that you have defeated so many enemies, but the only enemy is the mind and the senses, and you are totally under their control. And therefore, you will never understand. You will never understand. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or this supreme power, because you're a fool. He basically called this fight, oh, greatest of the demons, you're simply a fool, being dragged into material existence. So, yes, there are many conspiracies going on all around us, and they will be going on. And maybe whether this virus is caused by bat soup, or Bill Gates, or something else, or the next virus that comes along, or the last one that was here, or the Spanish virus that killed, I forget how many millions of people, or this one or that one. They've always been there. And they will always be there. Either a virus or a problem or a war. Just like yesterday, there was a big earthquake in Puerto Rico. Not one, but there was like 15 or 20 earthquakes. Most of them were about 3.5, 3.7. And somewhere else, there's some kind of a disaster, and somewhere else, there's a fire. And in the Middle East, there's a war going on. And somewhere else, there's a drug war going on. And all of these things are people conspiring and justifying by seeing another conspiracy. No, oh, there's the American imperialistic conspiracy, and then from the Western side, oh, there's the communistic conspiracy to take over the world, and then, you know, but a devotee sees that there are the three modes of material nature. Yechaiva saptika bhava rajasas tamasas chaye matta evati na tan vidi natvaham teshu te mai. Krishna says, all these modes of nature, goodness, passion, ignorance, are coming from my energy, and everyone is being deluded by them. But me, I am totally unaffected by these three modes of nature. So this is the reality that a devotee sees. These modes of nature are governing everything and everyone. So no one can escape them. And therefore, we may be aware, I know some devotees, even some leaders, have said we should understand these conspiracies. Yes, we should understand them to the point that we can see that when there's the influence of Dana, Jana, Sundari, Kavita, which Lord Chaitanya says we should avoid to the greatest degree possible, unnecessary accumulation of wealth. Not that it's bad to have wealth, but if you unnecessarily accumulate it for the wrong purpose, then, as Queen Kunti says, Janmaishvara Shuta Shribir Edamana Bana Pumam, that good birth, wealth, beauty, or good qualities, and intelligence or knowledge, these things can be very good if they're used for Krishna, but they can also bewilder us, and they're very dangerous because they can increase the fever of material existence. So we have to be very, very, very careful that we don't get into these different situations of the material world. And that doesn't just mean conspiracies, it means politics, it means economics. Otherwise, if we're working, if we have investments, yes, you have to follow the economic world. Or if you're working in such a way, you have to follow the political world, you have to follow the laws of a particular country. But Srila Prabhupada never said, go against these laws, take up this cause. No, just like in the US, there are groups of people that they say, don't pay any taxes because taxes were not contemplated in the Constitution. And another group will say, yes, the government has too much power. Even one of our presidents in the US, Thomas Jefferson, said, whenever a government has any power, it's too much power. So even he was the president, what to speak of anyone else. So, but the point is, a devotee doesn't see it that way. A devotee sees, no, this is all happening by Krishna's arrangement. I've told this story a few times, but I'll tell it again because it illustrates this. One time there was a few years ago, there was a young man in San Diego temple. He was underage. No, I think he was 17 or something, 16, 17, maybe even younger, 15. He was coming to the temple every day and his parents were complaining. So the devotees told him, parents came to the temple and said, you're brainwashing our son. Devotees told him, you should go home, go to school, do your homework. So he tried to do that, but he was just so enamored by Krishna consciousness that he kept skipping school and wasn't interested in his studies. So finally the parents came again. The devotee said, just why don't you let him, try to be, practice this Krishna consciousness a little bit. Then once he gets used to it, then we're encouraging him to study, but they didn't believe it. They thought, oh, this is a conspiracy. of the devotees to capture him. No, they were thinking like that. So finally, his father became so concerned that he took him to the insane asylum, to a psychiatric ward. And he said, my son has been brainwashed, bewildered by this religious group, and please help him. And so finally the doctor, the psychiatrist came in, started asking him questions. Do you see and hear things that other people don't hear and see? He said, oh, yes, all the time. Oh, okay. We'll note that down. Do you feel things different from other people? Oh, yes. Yeah, all the time. Oh, you noted that down. Well, he said, so the doctor said, what about this flower here? There was a flower on the desk. He said, what do you see? He said, well, when I see that, he said, do you think it's beautiful? He said, yes, it's beautiful. But I don't see it as the flower's beauty. When I see this flower, no artist can capture the beauty of this flower, but many have tried. But no one can do it perfectly, because the supreme artist and the person who's controlling everything, I see within that flower, that potency and that intelligence and the power of the supreme source of everything, the supreme person or God. And after he spoke for a while, the doctor said, where did you get this information from? Where do you get this knowledge? So he said, from my Bhagavad Gita. He had his Bhagavad Gita with him. And so he showed the Bhagavad Gita, and they sat there for 2 hours talking about Bhagavad Gita, until the nurse came and said that, you have other patients. Oh, yeah. So the doctor went and he called the father and he said, okay, your son he's okay. And the father, wow, that's amazing. You're in one day you were able to completely, disseminate all that bewilderment of his. So the father came and he said, so what did you do? I said, there's nothing wrong with this boy. He's the most intelligent, sane person I've ever seen in my life. Whatever this religious philosophy is, it's the most wonderful thing I've ever heard. And the father said, what? And he started trembling in rage. And he became so disturbed that he started hyperventilating and rolling on the floor. So the doctor took him and committed him into the psychiatric ward and let the son go. So the point is that a devotee sees things differently. A devotee sees how everything is coming from Krishna. And as I just quoted from Bhagavad Gita, as we read the verse, and the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada also in second chapter, 56th verse of Bhagavad Gita, he says in his purport that everything, a devotee sees everything is coming from Krishna. Now that doesn't mean that a devotee is allows injustice, no. But it means that a devotee sees the ultimate source of injustice as coming from a source beyond, coming from Krishna, a source beyond what the other people see, which are simply instruments of our destiny. But our destiny is coming from our past, and our past is coming from our previous desires and previous activities. And a devotee sees like that, but a devotee also understands we have varnashram. There is a varnashram arrangement by the Lord. And that varnashram arrangement is that there are kshatriyas. Kshatriyas have the duty of establishing justice. Sometimes they have to punish. Sometimes they send people to jail. Sometimes people are executed. These are the duties of the king, the president, the leader, the government. They have to establish justice. But a devotee sees justice in a different way. A devotee sees justice and the ultimate justice as the desire or the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore a devotee is never disturbed by the modes of nature. A devotee is disturbed by activities of demoniac persons against devotees, against devotional service, and against the Supreme Personality of God. Just to conclude, Srila Prabhupada, in one discussion, one conversation with the devotees, Prabhupada was speaking about the need for constant vigilance. Just like one philosopher said that if something is not worth dying for, it's not worth living for. So a devotee sees like that Krishna consciousness is so wonderful that I want to give my whole life. I want to give my whole existence. I want to give my full intelligence, my full energy to performing devotional service for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore a devotee is never disturbed by these things if we're actually on the platform of pure devotional service. And if we're not on that platform, which most of us aren't, then what do? When there's a disturbance, when there's a difficulty, we chant Hare Krishna. We look to the Bhagavatam. We associate with Vaishnavas. We inquire, what is the source of this? Why is this happening? And we understand it in terms of Krishna consciousness, that everything is happening because it is part of a plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which we will never be able to figure out. And therefore Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the intricacies of the modes of nature or karma it's impossible to figure out. It's too complex. It requires 33 million principal demigods and other subordinate demigods and unlimited energies of the Supreme Lord to be able to happen. How will we possibly understand it? But with our Atmaman Manyate Jagat consciousness, that everything should be reduced down to my level of understanding, to whatever my intellect can conceive of, and that is the perfection of life. I will go around trying to bring everything down to my level, my empiric level of understanding, and then everything will be perfect. And once everyone can see things through my eyes. So this is the real conspiracy. The real conspiracy that's going on in this world is everyone trying to convince everyone else to see things or to do things according to my vision, to my understanding, to my limited intelligence, and thinking that in that way, through my politics, through my influence, through my money, that everything will happen by my influence, rather than the influence of the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these are some thoughts on this particular verse. I'll stop here and see if there are any questions. Either you can write the question, or if the host wants to put it up, then they can ask it directly in person.
So we have the streaming on YouTube and Facebook, and of course, if the mic's not working for any reason, you can post it here in the chat. One thing I'd like to say, just we're going to make time on the question. Sometimes Zoom can turn into a whole nother conversation, and
So, okay. It
looks like we have a hand raised with Gopta's iPad. You can also raise your hand too if you have a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Jai, all grace to Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Gurudev, apart from conspiracy theory, there's one question that a lot of devotees the people ask in general in terms of astrology. Whether it's because even until last year, I was following one astrologer that predicted that there'd be disaster in 2020 and so forth. So you have conspiracy theory, and then you have astrologers saying that it seems that this thing, it is within the ether, it's within the the arrangement by the Lord. What's your take on astrology in terms of the coronavirus and disasters that they also foresee later on in this year and so forth?
Well, it depends on there are thousands of astrologers. The majority of them don't know what they're doing. And then some of them know what they're doing technically, but they don't have the spiritual potency or the potency of doing austerities and penances to be able to understand what they're seeing properly. No. But let's say we have the most expert, just like there was somebody sent me one young boy who had TLOC, who said that this virus will be over by such and such a. But even if he's right, it doesn't take away the fact that whoever catches it, whoever doesn't catch it, however much one prepares for it, one may catch it. And another person who never prepares anything, who never wears a face mask, who gathers together with 100 friends in his house, may never get it. So the point is, even if someone's so expert in astrology that they can say that it came from this or it came from that, and they're right, what does it matter?
Yeah.
Because the same modes of nature will continue to churn the whole material nature in such a way that it follows Krishna's will. It's not that if we figure out that it came from the Chinese or Trump or Bill Gates or this person, that we'll be able to, let's say we find out it came from Bill Gates, or everybody believes that. Well, what good is it going to do? No. Because even if they proved that and put Bill Gates or whoever in jail, the modes of material nature and everyone's destiny will continue. And Bill Gates' destiny will take him to jail, and our destiny will cause that same amount of suffering that I would have experienced from the coronavirus, either by being afraid of it or by being indifferent to it. It will happen. So a devotee is more fixed. We may happy if someone could find out the cause or find the cure. But even if they find the cure, then something else will come along. So therefore, the point is a devotee should be peaceful. And certainly a devotee takes precaution and care against any disease, but a devotee doesn't become disturbed by these things to the point where they're living in fear. As the Bhagavatam says in the first canto, Krishna Parama Purushe, that, what's that verse? Yasyaham Shuyamananam Krishna Parama Purushe. That if one hears very carefully from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then all of his moha, shoka, bhaya, all of his illusion, all of his lamentation, and all of his fear will disappear from the heart. So that's what we should concentrate on, not hearing about this conspiracy or this cause and that cause, or this astrologer or that astrologer. But we should be hearing from the Bhagavatam, which will give us the level of consciousness that we can deal with any situation at any given point in time.
Thank you very much.
There's Achala Dharaka is raising his finger.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Generally, Krishna, because of our collective karma, whether it be localized or international, Krishna would allow it to happen because we are sinful. But why would he allow it to happen to the extent that even devotees can't congregate, devotees can't associate, we can't do harinam, we can't do books? Why would, I mean, why did Krishna allow it to happen like this? That devotees can't do anything.
Well, if I had a direct line, a red phone to Krishna, I would ask him. But I can only give an example from Srila Prabhupada. In Washington, D.C., Prabhupada was there, and every day it was raining. So the Sankirtan devotees came to Srila Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, why is Krishna doing this? We want to go out and do Sankirtan and please you and distribute so many books. And so why is Krishna allowing his rain? And Prabhupada said, actually, Indra, when he sees someone doing too many austerities, like all of you are doing so much austerity by going out and distributing books, then he thinks, oh, they may take my place. No. So therefore, he's opposing. No. Prabhupada said, Indra does this sometimes. No. So the point is, there's so many factors out there that Krishna allows them to happen, so we increase our determination to do devotional service by making even the execution of devotional service a little more difficult than it normally would be, so that we increase our desire to serve Krishna. Krishna, a test, this becomes a test. Like there's a saying, this will separate the boys from the men. So this is what separates the neophyte devotee and keeps them on the path of bewilderment from the more serious devotees who come up to the challenge of, oh, I can't do Sankirtan, I can't even go out. Now I have to hear him more, now I have to chant more, now I have to increase. I can see my own weakness more clearly than I could when I was going to the kirtan every day or when I was able to go out on Sankirtan. Now I have to understand that at some point in time, my body will be so weak that I can't go out and walk, I can't talk, I can't do this, I can't do that. I have to learn how to be Krishna conscious in every moment and every circumstance. So that's why Krishna does these things.
Hare Krishna.
There's some questions coming up here.
Nityangi and Dr. Lakshmi, which is Sri Devi Mataji, raising their
Somebody
hands.
said nobody created the virus. Well, I don't know if they did or not, but certainly Krishna created the virus. So that's for sure. We can know that he allowed it to be created by some material nature or something. So here's a question. Came in Spanish. Anyway, of the 26 qualities of a devotee, which is the most important, and how can we develop it, or how can we acquire it? The most important of the 26, not only that, the most essential, without which the other 25 are not sanctified, is surrender. Surrender is called the Swarup Lakshana, the essential quality. If there's no surrender, just like there's so many poets, there's so many friendly people, there's so many people who are austere, there's people who are celibate, there's all kinds of things. But if they don't have surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then all of those qualities, although they may be admirable on the material platform, they will not take us to devotional service. Therefore, Bhagavatam says, Harava Bhaktasya Kuto Mahaguna. If one is devoid of devotional service, all of the qualities that one may have are rendered useless because one remains on the platform of the mind and the senses. Okay, another one here. What I see in the COVID-19, a conspiracy or not, many devotees are improving their bhajans, more kirtan, family time, more reading, more Shastra, more classes, more association. Yeah, very good observation that these things are, you know, otherwise Krishna has a purpose for everything. That's the point. And here's another one from Kavi. Some people criticize religion, saying that when there is a crisis, people run to science for solution. Yes, a devotee also will use science because science has everything has its use in Krishna consciousness. One time, Srila Prabhupada, devotees were speaking to him and they asked him, should we use natural medicine or allopathic medicine? And Prabhupada said, whatever works. So the point is that science works, but it doesn't always work. Krishna consciousness also always works, but if we don't use it properly, it also doesn't work. So if our degree of faith and devotion is not up to par, then our devotional service, our Krishna consciousness will suffer, and we will take refuge. Just like many times I've seen devotees, when they have a problem, they chant less or they don't chant because they think, now I have to work harder to make more money to solve this problem. When the real solution is always to be more Krishna conscious. Because if you're more Krishna conscious, you may need less money, But if you always think I need more money, then you will never be Krishna conscious. So they shouldn't, and it may be true in other religions that they have put absolute faith in science, and they try to adjust their philosophy to coincide with scientific discoveries. But if one follows scientific discoveries, even the greatest ones, just like somebody sent out a little something that was on the cover of Scientific American a few years ago. It said that if we don't find a solution to this particular physical phenomenon, we will have to rewrite the whole science of physics. This was in Scientific American magazine. And they have rewritten. Now they have string theory, all this theory, that theory, and they'll always come up with a new one because material nature will never act according, it will always be beyond, the actions of material nature will always be beyond the capacity of human intelligence. And so the only way that human intelligence can try to understand material nature is that it becomes spiritualized. When human intelligence becomes spiritualized and becomes spiritual intelligence, then we can see things clearly. But people will always criticize, just like the story of the donkey and the man and his grandson. The man and his grandson, they had a donkey. So the man decided, I will put my grandson on the donkey and I'll walk. This is a small donkey. And so then someone came up and said, what kind of a boy are you that you would make this old man walk? You're a young man, you should be walking. So they switched places. And then someone came up and said, what kind of an old man are you that you're sitting comfortably and making this young boy walk so much? So then they decided, okay, we'll both get on the donkey. And then someone said, you both of you are so cruel, so much weight on this poor donkey. So they both got off the donkey, and someone said, you're both fools. You have a donkey and you're not using it. So it doesn't matter what we do in this material world, someone will criticize. That's the point. So any other question?
It looks like we have two from Nityangi Devi Dasi and Sri Devi Mataji. Their hands are up.
Oh, hands are up, okay.
So let me unmute Nityangi. It looks if you could unmute your microphone, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Can I speak in Spanish?
Yes.
Yes. Bueno, pues quiero hacer una pregunta acerca de un punto que ha tocado al principio, que ha dicho que si uno no siente dolor cuando tiene conciencia de Krishna. Bueno, yo lo he entendido parecido al caso de Bhishmadev cuando estaba pinchado con las flechas, que podía aún así ser plenamente consciente de Krishna e incluso iluminar a los que tenía allí al lado. Entonces, era para preguntarle acerca de cómo es que se puede hacer una cosa así, porque la experiencia general es que cuando uno está con el cuerpo mal, uno se queda como anulado y como mucho puede cantar mentalmente o puede dormir, pero estar en una condición adecuada, enfermo, yo no la conozco.
Well, the question is that when we're in very distressful or especially physically distressful situations, then just like Bhishma Dev, he was, his body was riddled by arrows, but he was purely, perfectly Krishna conscious. But her experience is that when we have so many bodily pains and difficulties, that's very difficult to be Krishna conscious. So how can we develop this degree? By being pure devotee. Srila Prabhupada, therefore, Srila Prabhupada showed us. Prabhupada was married. He was a young revolutionary, in the Gandhi movement. He was married, he had children, he had business. When it was told to him in a dream that he would take sannyas, he became horrified. And Prabhupada liked to eat nicely. Prabhupada wasn't like an austere person that just ate khichdi and boiled sabjis. And the point is that Krishna arranged Prabhupada's life in such a way to show us that he wasn't like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, lifelong brahmachari, austere, sitting for years with an umbrella chanting a billion names of the Lord. No. But at the time of death, he was totally transcendental because he was a pure devotee. So Krishna shows us different types of pure devotees. Bhishma Dev was a soldier, but he was purely Krishna conscious. So at the time of death, he was able to fully concentrate on Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada, being a pure devotee in totally different way, he was still able to concentrate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And many of our other devotees who have come to the time of death in a very painful way, with cancer or something like that, by the association of devotees, they were able to leave this body successfully. So the solution is we become so attached to the holy name, and we become so attached to the association of devotees. And just like in the Upanishad, at the end it says, "My Lord, please remember everything that I've done for you." So this is what a devotee counts on, that the Lord will remember us, and therefore let me do such things that the Lord will remember me, especially at the time of death, when things become very difficult. And so that is the solution. Although it may be very difficult, and our experience is that practically no one, when they're so sick or something, is not that they chant more rounds. They may not be able to. I've experienced it myself. When I was very sick in South India many years ago, maybe 40 years ago, I was. It was very difficult to chant. It took me like all day just to chant 16 rounds because my body was suffering so much. But at the same time, after the onslaught of the suffering, I realized that there's nothing in this world except for Krishna. So if we just hear and chant enough, then even in the midst of very difficult circumstances, in the midst of disease, then we can become Krishna conscious. And therefore, it's also a good idea that every one of us try to find another devotee who's a contemporary of mine, someone who I have friendship with and faith, and you can make a little deal that whenever I'm in a dangerous or difficult circumstance or I'm about to leave my body, that you have a pact that I will come and be there for you. I will come and I will chant. I will come and I'll chant with you and sit with you and read with you. And so we should also be very keen to appreciate the association of devotees so that Krishna gives us that association at the time of death or at a time of great difficulty, so that he will provide that association. He will provide the circumstance that even if we become incapable of maintaining our Krishna consciousness externally, that Krishna will send his devotees because we're very dear to him. And how do we become dear to Krishna? He says in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Dveshta sarvabhutanam, give up envying all other living entities. Maitra karuna eva cha. And develop friendship and compassion toward others. So if we do all these things and we chant and we perform favorable devotional service, then gradually we will come to the point where we can also undergo the most difficult circumstances and remain fully Krishna conscious. Well, here's a question. Amid the panic for a cure, devotees may place their faith in many sources as potential cures or remedies. Can you please comment on this? Yes, there's no problem to have faith in something that will cure the bodily condition. Just like we have faith according to our particular, or if I take this medicine, I will cure. But as Prasad Maharaj says, that even with the best medicine or the best boat may sink like the Titanic or other ones. The best medicine may fail, and the best parents may not be able to protect us, or the best security system may not be able to protect us. So we go to a doctor, or we go to with the idea of being cured. But the important thing is to understand, why do I want to be cured? Why do I want to be healthy? This purifies our purpose of whatever we're doing, even though that thing we're doing, just like many devotees, they have to go to work and work in an office or a business or selling something or have some job. I go there. Now, but if I have ordinary consciousness, then I'm just performing material activity. But if I go there with the idea that with the fruit of my work, with the money I get, I will make my family, my home, my community Krishna conscious. And also while I'm here, I'm doing this for my family, for myself, so that I can maintain my Krishna consciousness. So even that ordinary mundane work becomes connected to Krishna. So the point is that we connect our medicine to Krishna, we connect our work to Krishna. Yat karoshi yarashnasi, yat jehosi dadasi yat. We connect everything to Krishna, and then it becomes purified.
I think Sri Devi Mataji has a question.
Okay.
You want to mute your microphone?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Maharaj. This was a wonderful lecture. I'm really happy to be here and to attend this really enlivening lecture. I just had a comment actually to make about, this COVID and all this hype and hoopla about, oh my gosh, so much death. But that's what Srila Prabhupada came to teach us, that this is Martya Lok. He was asked, oh, India is such a poor country, there's such a high death rate. And he said the death rate is the same everywhere, 100%.
Yeah.
Not like that wasn't there just before COVID. It's always been there. Srila Prabhupada has given us so much to remind us that this is not a nice place. Get out of here. So my humble appeal to all our devotees is to just remember that this is really not a nice place. We are not meant to hang around here. This is not our home. And the more we take our Krishna consciousness seriously, the faster we will get back to Krishna and be out of this misery that is called this material world. That's just my humble 2 cents.
Thank you very much. We should be more afraid of the three modes of nature. As Prahlad Maharaj said, that I very much fear this material existence. No.
Exactly.
And then later on, he says in his same prayers that I have nothing to fear in this material existence because I'm drinking the nectar of your glories. But my real concern is to see how everyone is being bewildered by and turning their back to Krishna with the illusion of Maya Sukhaya Paramudvahato Vimudhan, following this illusory happiness, trying to acquire it. So this is our real disease, Bhava Roga, you know, the disease of material existence. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I have a comment and a question.
Okay.
Kind of growing up in America, it's conspiracy theory is something that was coined by the government. And I like the point that you made earlier about knowing your enemy. So therefore we can have a strategy. So it seems like there should be some balance to where we can have a clue or an understanding as what's going on by the they people or underhandedly. Ultimately, we have to be Krishna conscious, right? So in terms of strategy, as a preaching society, it was a question because I've been going back and forth with conspiracies all week with Dayananda Prabhu. And of course, he takes it back to the three modes of material nature, which is fine. But there's also a degree of relevance that we need in society. How do we combat these things? So my question was, obviously, one agenda is to have globalization, right, amongst the material nature or whatever it is. So as ISKCON, shouldn't we be inspired? Shouldn't we be utilizing this time to become more accredited and to have more of a domination over the internet, that's not the right word, but more influence over the internet? And shouldn't we be approaching this globalist aspect within our society without centralization, but more of an integration amongst different communities and temples as we're doing? Or should we stay with the current structure, which is kind of everybody's on an island doing their own thing? Would that be something that would kind of combat that globalization aspect that we're heading towards? I mean, as far as strategy is what I'm saying, preaching as an effective unit, worldwide international organization. It just seems that we're always on islands when there's so much we can do as an international entity. Does that make sense?
As far as everything taking everything back to the modes of nature, yes, that means just seeing the ultimate cause. We still have our duty, which is to preach. And so to preach Krishna consciousness. As far as globalization, Prabhupada wanted globalization also. He wanted everyone, and the Gita Mahatmya wants globalization also. One book, one God, one process, one mantra, Maha Mantra, one book, Bhagavad Gita, one God, Krishna. So the idea of globalization is always there. There was globalization up to 5,000 years ago. Parikshit Maharaj was the last emperor of the world. It was very globalized, but at the same time, individuality was there. So the conspiracy of globalization is something that's always going on. Otherwise, empires throughout history for millenniums have been fighting for global dominance or global dominion. So this is not a devotee. We want globalization also. We want everyone to chant Hare Krishna. That's globalization. At the same time, we want everyone to be individually advance and become Krishna conscious according to their ability to do so. So These two things are always there for a devotee. One thing is Srila Prabhupada wanted all of us to, each temple to be independent so that devotees are not just part of a big scheme that's in someone's mind and some devotee, he's running everything. Prabhupada didn't want that. But yes, you're right. The more we can join together, I think there's an effort, you probably heard about it in GBC College, that an effort on behalf of strategic planning to have more influence on the internet. As I sent you that link, to one devotee who's developing preaching strategies uh, through the internet. And so, yes, the two things have to be there. One, our individual effort to preach Krishna consciousness according to our ability, and also our ability to cooperate with each other to make our attempt to preach to the world and give Krishna consciousness to the world in a more relevant way, in a more powerful way. We have to be able to combine with others. And so therefore, Srila Prabhupada set up a GBC, which is supposed to uh, get everyone together and as much as possible, but also we always have to take into account that a spiritual voluntary movement is not so easy to uh, get everybody on the same page. And the fact that we're all on different levels of spiritual understanding. For someone, the best they can do is chant one Maha Mantra and try to offer something, and they have to work hard to maintain their family. They're not going to be so inspired to do internet preaching as someone who that's their service. That's what they can do. So yes, combining together and at the same time working in our individual service, these two things should go hand in hand.
Thank you. I think the key word that I picked up was relevance. I just really feel that sometimes we have to step outside of our box or our institution and see what they're doing and adapt, take the essence from that, and then make it Krishna conscious without watering down our process.
We always do that because I've explained many times, Rupa Goswami, when he wrote Nectar of Instruction and many of the things he wrote, he's taking universal principles and applying them to Krishna consciousness. So when we see strategies of governance, whether they be positive or negative, we can take them into account in understanding how to counteract them when they have a negative effect or a non-Krishna conscious effect. But we shouldn't become so absorbed in them that they distract us from our Krishna consciousness, or that we make it a submission. Just playing on words a little bit. Otherwise, we become more involved in that than we are, and we're putting more faith in some demoniac tendency to destroy Krishna consciousness, because that's always been there. Narada Muni even had hundreds of children killed to um, further Krishna consciousness. So sometimes the strategies are even incomprehensible. But to bring Krishna quicker, Narada Muni told Kamsa, kill the children, kill those children. You don't know whether the first one is the eighth one or the eighth one is the eighth one. So don't take any chances. No. So that's the point. That yes, we have to understand what materialistic people are doing, but don't become absorbed in it. Don't go to CNN or BBC every day and check it out for 2 hours. Become all concerned that what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do? The solution is to be Krishna conscious, and yes, be aware of what's going on so that we can counteract it in the most effective way.
Thank you.
Okay, here's some more things here. Um, Varuna. Uh, coronavirus. Someone was saying, yeah, this has gone around a little bit with devotees. Instead of coronavirus, we want the coronavirus. No. We want to spread the coronavirus everywhere and everyone getting infected by it. The Lord Chaitanya's mercy. How can we get out of my comfort zone to advance in spiritual life? Well, understanding that our comfort zone limits our Krishna consciousness. And I recommend reading the 11th, I recommend this all the time. Read the 11th canto, 20th chapter, text 27 and 28, where it says that as long as we're plagued by material desires, we can't negate their existence, but at the same time, we should understand the negative effect of their presence. And then we can gradually give them up. No. Okay.
Looks like Chakrapani has a question. Maybe.
He says me.
Yeah, me.
Well, I think he wants to ask it directly, maybe. That's why he
Oh.
said just me.
Hare Krishna, Gurudeva.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Gauranga Hare. Gurudeva, I am reading the Sriman Bhagavatam now, right? So I come across with an interesting topic from Srila Prabhupada. When he was talking about that, to give the impressions to the children when they start to, in the beginning, the deities or chanting and all this, right? And he said that his father, he given the chance, he given the deities, no? And he was so much inspired to do arti and all this, no? But after that, he said that I am not ashamed to say that I had to stop all this, no? When I went to the school and all these things stopped. I'm not watching any deities, no chanting, nothing until I met my Guru Maharaja and that started again. So how we understand that point from the spiritual point of view?
Well, a devotee is naturally humble. So, Srila Prabhupada is saying that, Prabhupada also said later on that I wasted so much time. So a devotee internally, they see things like that. But we see other devotees in terms of their devotional service, not in terms of their whatever obstacles or difficulties they're confronting in their lives. And that way we keep a very positive attitude. So we all have different circumstances that we're coming from. And the difference in Prabhupada's, the way that Krishna arranged Prabhupada's time in this material world is instructive. You know? So the fact that Prabhupada says things in a certain way to reflect our condition, we should see it that way. That Srila Prabhupada is presenting himself in terms of our condition, just like Arjuna presents his questions in Bhagavad Gita in terms of our existence, or in the Bhagavatam, all these sages, they're presenting, or Parikshit Maharaj principally, is presenting questions which indicate our material existence, so that we can understand better how to get out of it. Something else here. Yes, okay. Well, I think maybe we can stop at this point in time. And when is the next class? Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so the next class I have programmed in Spanish will be at 8 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. That's 8 o'clock my time. My time means US Central Time, or the same time as Colombia, Panama, the same time as 1 1 hour earlier than Venezuela or Trinidad, and the same time as Mexico and Central America. That's the next Spanish class. And that same day, which is Wednesday, Nrsimha Chaturdasi, I will have a class at 4:30 in English, at 4:30 my time, which would be 5:30 Trinidad time, 4:30 U.S. Central Time, 5:30 Eastern Time, U.S., 4:30 Central American Mexico time, and everybody else can figure it out wherever they are, if you want to hear it. So that will be the next class.
Also, we'll have a recording for this on YouTube. So if anybody's interested, you can send a message and I'll give you the link, or you can look on my page. We recorded it on YouTube.
Okay, thank you all very much for your association. And I hope to have more and more, and we can get together more on this. The one thing, like somebody asked, Atala Darka asked, that, we're being restricted, but actually many people who, as myself, who generally would not preach on internet are doing so. Maybe we're opening up a new phase of expanded preaching for everyone. So there's always a benefit. We just have to look for it. Hare Krishna, glory to Srila Prabhupada,
All right.
Gauranga, Sai Gaur Perennial.
Hare,
Hare Bol.
Krishna.
Ranga Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.